Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today I'm going to be going over a lot of the endgame gear that you're going to see a lot in Wizard 101. Stuff like your Reaver gear that's being used for PvE, but also the gear it's used for advanced content, the gear that you need in raids and you get from raids, stuff like that. This won't be like a PvP gear guide or anything, because God, I have no idea what I'm talking about there. But this is going to be mostly a guide for a lot of the gear that you're going to see referenced in raid guides when you're talking to people about advanced content stuff, setups, whatnot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you through all of the endgame gear, where they drop from, how you get them, what you need to do to get them, and kind of the broad use cases for them. And it's all going to start here in Wallaroo, June 25, or not June, February 2025, where a lot of the, especially the best PvE and game gear drops, and it all kind of centers here around this guy. Bingo. Um, Here you can kitty craft all of the gear, and then all of the jewels only for your circle, with the exception of the boosters. But I can only craft like the death weaving pins and whatnot. But this guy is really nice because you can basically end up crafting all of the gear that you're going to basically need um, on really any of your wizards, provided that you have the badges. Now, all of the Wallaroo a lot of the Wallaroo bosses have badges attached to them. So, for example, the badge does have the power is you need to defeat Mr. Montgomery 10 times, and then you can pity craft the decks and the spare jewels. For Freddy, you need to do it 10 times. You can craft the rings and the circle jewels. Same thing with Fleets, 15 times, and you can craft the Fames and whatnot. Um, and then Malice 15 times, and you do Nightmare, and you can craft the Hat, Robe, Boots, and Wand. This is just really helpful for crafting the gear quickly, pity crafting it if you're getting horrible luck and whatnot, and this is definitely one of the more important places in Wizard 101. Um, Also here in Hope Springs, you'll come across Lucky the Jewel Vendor. Lucky is really nice because not only does she have, say, Square Arch Mastery jewels, which are kind of mid, 145 health jewels, which are really good. She also sells the 15% accuracy jewels. These are really helpful. Technically, they're not as good as the crafted ones, but it's a 1% difference, and this will basically work in all but like maybe 2 cases. In fact, it is a lot of what I end up using. As you see, I'm using my 15 here. So that makes Lucky incredibly good. Lucky Charms, haha, funny. But to really understand kind of where a lot of this gear drops, I'm going to take you to each of the spots. In the first one, we're going to need to go to Billabong Resort. That is because in order to unlock Crash the Bandicoot, which drops the amulets and is the location in which most people farm for their Dreamwater, you need to do a side quest. Also, if I sound a bit weird, I'm sorry, I'm kind of sick right now. Anyways, um, right around here, there will be somebody who has a side quest for you. They disappear once you've completed the quest, so that's why I don't have it. But basically, in essence, what you do is you grab the side quest, do it, and it will take you to Crash the Bandicoot in Wabakong territory, and you will go there and defeat him, and he drops amulets pretty, actually, liberally, and then also 1 Dreamwater per, but a lot of people tend to farm it because it's like a 2-turn strat. Also here in Billabong Resort is the Dreamstone. You need Dreamstone in order to pity craft any of the warm pieces of gear, so like anything up here. You'll need varying amounts of Dreamstone in order to craft it, in addition to your Dreamwater. It's kind of like the polygons in Novus, if you remember that. And this is, in my opinion, the best place to farm them. You kind of just take a loop around the outside. Cantrip chests also spawn here quite often as well if you're with other people and you need to do cantrip chests. I say this as there's like no cantrip chests here. But you can just basically do a loop around, pick up the Dreamstone, switch realms, and it is really nice. Um, Also, the music here is kind of fire. But this is, in my opinion, the best spot to get Dreamstone. And so, despite the fact that there's no boss here that really drops any of the gear, it is still incredibly important in the gear acquisition of your Wallaroot gear. But then to get to Crash, we can just take the Traveler's Truck to Wobblegong territory. And over here, you'll come across the sigil. Kind of like back over there, and it is Crash the Bandicoot. What makes Crash such an interesting boss is that he's just very farmable, and he's very fast to farm. So despite the fact he only drops 1 Dream Water, it is pretty much the most efficient way to do it because you can 2-turn it. For example, I have 385 Crash defeats because I've done it so many times. And the boss is literally just him. I'm not going to go in, actually. It's just him and a minion. You fight it. The cheats are pretty simple. He gets a Skull Pip every turn. If he gets 2 of the same Skull Pip, he casts that Skull's 10 Pip hit. Nothing super hard to go around. Basically, just do it like you would any normal boss fight. And yeah, so that's Crash the Bandicoot. Here in the Dreaming are 2 incredibly important bosses for the kind of Wallaroot gear acquisition. The first one is actually the final fight in Wallaroot, the storyline that you do, and it is Freddy's Domain. In here, it's kind of just an incredibly annoying fight. If you've gotten through Wallaroot, you know how annoying it is. AoE spells, trigger cheats, the dispels, all of that. It's kind of a pain, but you only need to do him 10 times. He is also the fastest way to do the dungeon if you're going to Skeleton Syndicate it. I have 34 defeats, for example. I have a bunch more, like my ice or whatever. But yeah, this is Freddy. He drops the rings and the circle jewels. So if you want the Reaver ring, he drops it, but also the incredibly valuable circle jewels because of damage, the pierce, and whatnot. So that it drops here. Likewise, over here is the Fabled Nightmare Dungeon, which drops the hat, robe, boots, and wands. This is a bit more annoying. You have to do it 15 times. It is just an incredibly annoying fight. Let's be honest. You need to do 15. I've done 54, and all 54 hurt my soul. But yeah, and it drops the hat, the robe. I have the robe somewhere here. The boots and the wand. I don't actually have a wand, but it drops all of that. A side note with it is, if you recall at the beginning, at Bingo you can only craft the jewels and the pins that would correspond to your school. So I am a death, I can only craft death rings and pins. However, at the end, the end of Nightmare, a crafter will come up, Dream Warp, and you can craft all of the pins and jewels, even if they aren't for your school there. I don't know why there's a difference, but there is if that interests you. But other than that, Freddy and Nightmare are both here, kind of at the end of the Dreaming, and are both incredibly helpful for getting that kind of end-game gear, especially Nightmare. It is still one of the more run dungeons in the game. Now, I'm talking about Wallaroot and World Gear acquisition, and you're probably wondering why the hell am I in Novus? Well, the reason for that is there are 2 bosses in Novus that you must fight that will drop other pieces of the gear. Both of them are on the Doom. The first one is our old friend, you cannot take it from me, you do not have the power, Mr. Montgomery. He drops the decks in the square jewels. The decks are pretty neat. They give you a circle socket and then a moonblade if you're on death. It's a tri buff depending on what school you are. And he also gives you the square jewels, which are really nice because you can get 8 more outgoing healing. Or, in my case, you can get 650 more health. Although the health and all the jewels, health will vary based off the school that you are. You have to do him 10 times. Kind of annoying, but people are quite often doing him. The boss cheats itself are pretty self-explanatory. At the end, he will basically every turn cast a Tempest with varying numbers of buffs. You have to outlive it. Normally, you can just shield spam, or dispels, or beguile. There's a lot of ways to kind of work around that. The final one is Invading Fleets. This is the final boss of Wallaroo, despite being a novice, and in it you know, tri-blade the person in the fourth slot a bunch over and over again and defeat kill the minions or the bosses. This drops the Athanes, and I believe the tier jewels. Reaver Athame is incredibly good. You know, good health, good dip, blah blah blah. Plus a square socket. You also need to do this 15 times. Um, it is a bit more tedious and time consuming. Um, so as you can see, where is it? Yeah. So yeah, you've defeated the whole spiral. You have to do it 15 times. I've only done it 18 because yeah, it's just kind of chaotic. But yeah, so that is the Wallaroo and gear. And it is all not too bad to get. It's just very time consuming and tedious. In the latest patch, we got the wide, wonderful world of Selenopolis, with a bunch of puppets because I haven't loaded them all in yet. But here you have a world gear that directly mirrors the gear that you get at the Wallaroo, and you can come over here and craft it from Kala, the gear crafter. It is, as you can see, the exact same as Reaver. Um, it's a spitting image. The only difference is the item card. The only one that I would say is a legitimate upgrade is the Khonshu hat. The 30 balance blade is infinitely more valuable than Virulence. It's not the end of the world. It's not like absolutely required or anything like that. But the item cards are different and in some cases a lot more useful. As you can see here, like the boots, the elemental blade is nice. Robe is just kind of a downgrade, but eh. The same with the item cards you get from the wands. It's just all different. So depending on what your build is, playstyle, blah blah blah, it might differ. Yeah, so that's what it is. You can also get Transmute Parchment here. It's you have to do all the challenge modes for whatever reason, but if you really want, you could. Um, Likewise here, a couple of other interesting things in Selenopolis. You have the Socket Wrench Crafter, where you can downgrade socket wrenches. So let's say you need a novice socket wrench for something and you don't have any, but you have adepts ones. You can downgrade them and whatnot. It's nice. If you have a bunch of legendaries, but you need to like unlock the sockets like an Omen Mastery, for example. Likewise, there's also just cosmetic gear for stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that's Selenopolis gear. You can get him just like in Wallaroo from defeating a bunch of the bosses. The one interesting thing is that if you don't want to do Nightmare, you can Khonshu 30 times and craft the gear, but that's pretty much how it is. It's just a spitting image of Reaver, but as an alternate source to get it, and also if you want different item cards, you can get those as well. Finally, in Selenopolis is beautiful and amazing harmonic grove, or blended grove, whatever this is called. But there is some gear that these trees have that are incredibly helpful, and that is dual piercing tools. More stuff might come out in future weaving updates, but as of right now, the only stuff you have is the piercing tools. And basically what this is, and it's only for your school into that magic weaving, you can craft using 95 weft yarn for the 6%, 95 weft yarn, and then a 6% piercing of both the storm and the death one. You can craft a drowned piercing tool, which you can get 6 pierce for both your school and the school you get to. It obviously changes based on the thing, so like the myth death one is an extinction piercing. The nice thing about this, and it might get changed, is that even if you change your weaving, so for example, I have both my myth and storm weaving maxed, you can socket, say, the myth death weaving pierce tool onto a piece of gear like a deck, and still be able to do it, and still reap the benefits, despite me not being an Extinction Weaver. It is nice though, and these rules are just really nice if you need to off school a lot and you don't have to have as much gear clogged up in your inventory for those jewels if you need pierce jewels and whatnot. It's great for if you just want to dual school, and use both kind of equally. But this is just really nice stuff to kind of keep in mind. Likewise, you also have like your spell fusions, like Jewel Dice for your Death Storm, and you get your Drowned Blades. That is TC. You get your Drowned Blades or whatever. So this all is just really helpful in getting more damage, making it easier to manage gear, and so I thought I'd include it in here because it is an incredibly valuable tool. The best in-game gear isn't relegated to dungeons that are kind of easily accessible, however, as there are two kind of the housing gauntlets that are incredibly valuable. The first one back here is the Unforgiven Dead Gauntlet. While it doesn't drop any endgame gear, it does drop incredibly valuable pet jewels that are going to be helpful when trying to train your pet. So, for example, it gives you stuff like the Pain Giver jewels that are quite easy to farm from the mobs that you can kind of just two-turn. And likewise, it also drops the Proof and Defy jewels, which are really nice if you're trying to make, say, a Resist pet, and you can't get the frickin' Proof to manifest on it. Also, the Lock and Key Blade drops from here if you want it for stitching, but the pet jewels that it drops are quite amazing. Likewise, you also have the Forbidden Library Gauntlet, which drops pretty good, actually. Resist based kind of gear for level 170, but it also drops the second best robe in the game, the Baleful Plot Armor. This gives you pretty good stats, and it's just a direct upgrade from Reaver in pretty much everything, but here's an accuracy. Um, and crit. But also it drops the bosses in there drop both Piercer and Breaker jewels for piercing, which makes it just incredibly valuable and incredibly helpful when you're trying to get that kind of pet that you want. Um, both of these are just kind of a pain to get access to, though, because as you can see, you can't just join it from housing tours anymore. But it is still two incredibly helpful spots to get gear for max level. Another incredibly valuable spot, especially when you're trying to create raid gear setups, comes here at Takanobu. Takanobu is a widely farmed boss that drops a lot of pretty helpful gear from level 170, specifically in the wand and a fame department. You also only need to do a couple of runs in order to pitycraft a lot of the gear. As you can see, you get like 5 or 6 a run, I'm pretty sure, and you need, if you want to craft the boots, 17, the ring, 10, the amulet, 8, the deck, 6, the fame, 10, so on, so forth. But what Takanobu is really helpful for is 3 pieces of gear specifically, although all of it's pretty good. The wands are just really nice because they give you low pip, fast aim, and fast hits. Stuff that is incredibly beneficial for raids such as Paul's Revenge Raid. For example, Dondaga is an incredibly fast hit that will do, 695 damage at the low ends. So a lot of storms use that when they're mob pulling. Likewise, the Athames are really good because they're in a few ways kind of just a direct upgrade from Reaver. You drop some health and some crit block for more power pip chance, but you also get a triangle socket. It's really nice if you're trying to off school, for example, and you need that added accuracy, while still having your surfers and your tiers. Amulets aren't really that good. I guess it's a item card hex. Um, but the decks are also really nice because they give you sacrificing some health and whatnot, Dark Surge, and still a Circle Socket, and whatnot. Um, a lot of PvPers think that this is the best deck in the game. Again, this isn't really as much directed for PvP, but this is still some pretty beneficial here. And then the actual clothes do give some really nice item cards, so if you're doing support roles and whatnot, you will be losing all of your assists for this, but you get like a 35 Dragon Blade, you get a Blade Storm, and you get a Balance Blade. This makes Takanobu just a really nice boss farm, especially because he drops spell elements for all 7 schools, so you can get stuff like Goat Monk, Monk of Morning, Catch of the Day, Ninja Pigs, Ice Elemental, um, whatever the Mushu Balance Bow is called, stuff like that. And this just makes Takanobu all around an incredibly nice boss. Here in the Crystal Caves is Lambent Fire, which also has very similar gear as you will see with Takanobu, but like the difference between, say, the Selenopolis and the Reaver gear, the item cards are just different. So the hat, very similar. It does have item card backdraft, which is pretty neat for a lot of the kind of more fast farming methods. Also, you have like a dragon spear. Same thing, kind of as universal bust, but this one's more pierce focused. Um, the wands give you, though, King Arts. I believe it's the 3B equivalent. I might be wrong on that. A reshuffle, some wand hits. So this makes these wands pretty helpful in some scenarios, specifically for schools that rely a bit more on their King Art, like Myth for certain things. And again, it's the theme is the spinning show itself. Different item cards though, with say the ring or the amulet, and the deck is also just a carbon copy. But overall, Lambit is another way to get it, especially if you want Avalon spellments like for stuff like Pure Knight. It's all the exact same, but it's worth noting here because it's quite helpful, and also some of the item cards are better, like you see in the case of the wand for certain for certain situations. So now we are in the arena, and in this, you're not going to get anything for PvP, but you get the Wastelander's gear that comes from the different rematches. So, for example, you can get stuff like the Wastelander's hat. It's the 170 version is the Umber Queen's gear, and it's very good. You get good pins, you still get good damage, and you get Power Pip and Shad from it. The robe, some say, is better than the Armor robe because you get more accuracy and Shad, while basically having the same stats. And then the rings are very good because they give you a triangle socket in exchange for a circle. Plus, that 23 power pip chance is really good. The Wastelanders is just really nice to have because it gives you more options, first of all. It gives you a good piece of Shad gear without having to do raids. And overall, it is just incredibly solid gear that even with raid gear is sometimes best in slot. I use it in some of my raid setups and my off-school setup. For example, when I'm off-school, as a diff, I'm using the Wastelander's hat. For some of my raid setups, like my Polaris Vanguard setup for when I'm in IF, I use both the Wastelander's ring and the Wastelander's hat. It is just more options, and always more options are beneficial. Another thing to note here is that there is one piece of really good endgame gear that is often used that is 100% locked behind buying packs. Apart from the occasional Professor's Horde pack that you can get through, say, your special events tree, like maybe here at the end of the Spiral Showcase, Professor's Horde gives you some very valuable endgame gear. For example, it gives you stuff like the Dworgen hat, or the Dalmea hat, which gives you stuff like Incendiate, or Mass Feint, which is incredibly helpful for trying to do fights quicker. Mass Feint's pretty much the best AoE buff in the game, and Incendiate, literally, I mean, yeah. um, Scald Incendiate is overpowered for a reason. But you also get the wands. The Headmaster's Dream Staff, for example, is really good if you're off-schooling because it gives you 26 myth damage, whereas the best wand in the game, the Shivalba one, only gives you 17 universal. It also gives you Square Socket, which is nice for health when sometimes your off-school setup might be lacking. Likewise, the Law Staff is really beneficial because it gives you that bonus Mass Hex card, which is incredibly helpful in a lot of setups, especially when you may or may not be needing a Mastery Amulet in order to do things. It is just really good item cards and really good gear. And the Professor's Horde pack is the pack that I recommend that everybody, if they are looking to buy packs, invests in. Get it from the Crown Shop. It's $3.99 like everything else, but it is just incredibly solid gear. The mounts kind of suck, but these are just really good wands, especially for that mass trap and for off-schooling. And for that, it's just really good, and it sucks that it's strictly behind a paywall. Finally, here at the guild house is the raid gear, and it's dropped by Gwen, not, T-posing puppet. But here you can basically look at, usually Pitycraft except for Void, all of the gear. Now the only gear that, there's a lot of it, but the only gear that tends to really matter is Crying Sky is great for PvP or like trying to off school and whatnot, although I think Wastelander's just better for that. But let's first look at the robes. The Daemon robe is the best slot robe in the game. The reason I'm not using it is my pet doesn't have Pierce, and so this is actually a better robe for me. But the Daemon robe is, if you're running perfect stats, the best robe in the game. 3 more damage, you lose some Pierce and whatnot, but it's fine. That Shad's pretty helpful too, and it's basically the 170 Nullity robe. If you recall, Nullity robe is the best slot robe in the game. Likewise, on some schools, and it kind of just varies also, the Hunhow robe is really nice for setups that you do in PvP or advanced content, because you drop some stats, but you still maintain good damage, you get Shad, you have good Pierce. This, for example, you drop some health in your accuracy for more Shad, for more power pip and whatnot, and so it's just really beneficial. Likewise with the boots, the Shabalba boots are just pretty nice if you can make up for it. The loss, you just lose all of your power pip. But these are just really nice. You keep your kind of damage and pierce, but you also get Shad and a bit more resist and crit block. Wand-wise, the Shabalba wand is best to slot on every school. Once I get there, the 170 version is the best. The only difference is that instead of pip conversion on the Reaver wand, you get Shad rating here, but the Shad rating is better literally every time, and so Shabalba is the best in slot wand on every school. Likewise, some of the themes are pretty nice. For example, this is kind of just a worse version of the Takanobu theme. But if you don't really want to lose that health, it works. And then you also have the Hunhow. The Hunhow amulets are the best amulets in the game because they are just objectively better. You get more resist, you get more health, and you get pretty much you get all of the benefits of Reaver plus more. Finally, the decks. The decks, I mean, it's all up to you. I personally think the Daemon deck is best to slot because it gives you health, which is the nice thing off the Reaver deck, but it also gives you the Arc Mastery, and the Pip Conversion, and the crit that is nice off the Takanobu. Also, you get a Circle Socket and Guard Surge. But that is all really up to personal preference. But that's going to do it for this episode in this video today, guys. Thank you all for watching, and I hope this helped you kind of understand a lot of what the endgame gear is and where you're going to be able to get it. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more guides, everything Wizard101. And there will be a lot of content coming out soon because we have a new update coming out with a lot more stuff that's going to be super exciting. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below or join the Discord, and have a great rest of your day.